Hello everyone, this is the EcoBag explanation lecture. In this session, we will solve problems 31 through 35. If you look at the question, it asks about the timing for measuring the left atrium. Basically, it can be measured accurately when the atrium is completely filled with blood. The period when this part is completely filled with blood is the end systolic phase, which is answer D. You can use this problem-solving process to review the basic concepts. Let's move on and look at the next topic. The question asks which cross-sectional view is most suitable for measuring the right atrium. The correct answer is C. You should know that the right atrium can be measured most accurately in the apical four-chamber view. Let's check answer C and move on. Let's look at the next question. This question is asking about the normal volume of fluid in the pericardial sac. Also, there is a certain amount of fluid present in the pericardium that surrounds the heart. This fluid prevents the heart from overexpanding and also serves to reduce friction between the layers, which is the main function of the fluid in this space. In normal conditions, you can consider that usually about 10 to 50 milliliters are present. You just need to check the basic numerical values through solving the problems. Let's move on and look at the next question. In the question, it asks for the name of the potential space located behind the left atrium when there is a pericardial effusion. I'll provide additional explanations about this topic while watching the related video. If you look at the diagram, you can see that there are potential spaces around the left atrium and the aorta. The area located behind the left atrium here is called the oblique sinus. Next, the space located behind the aorta is called the transverse sinus. If fluid accumulates excessively, you can see through the video that fluid also fills these potential spaces in the back. So basically, just remember that there is the oblique sinus behind the left atrium and the transverse sinus behind the aorta. If you look at the video, you can see pericardial effusion in this area. You can see this kind of expanded area behind the left atrium in the video. So you can consider this space as the oblique sinus. You can review this together with the diagram. Let's go back to the question and summarize the content. Since the question asks about the space behind the left atrium, the correct answer is C, the oblique sinus. Moving on, let's take a look at question number 35. The question is asking which of the following factors, when decreased, is not related to an increase in frame rate and improvement in temporal resolution. First of all, if you decrease factors like image depth, field of view, and number of focal points, the frame rate increases. When the frame rate increases, the temporal resolution also increases. On the other hand, transmit gain is not really related, so the correct answer would be choice D. Let me briefly explain the parts related to frame rate here. If you look at the illustration, this part here shows an image with a high frame rate, and these parts here are in a state of low frame rate. A high frame rate means that the time it takes to create a single image is short. So, in a short period of time, you can produce multiple images. On the other hand, a low frame rate means it takes longer to create each image. So there are fewer images overall. If you look here, when the depth is shallow, the number of times the pulse goes out and returns happens very quickly. So, the shallower the depth, the higher the frame rate becomes. Similarly, the narrower the range that needs to be displayed, the faster the images can be generated. Therefore, the frame rate improves. On the other hand, in this case, the depth is deep. It takes a long time for the pulse to go out and return, so it takes a long time to create a single image. As a result, the frame rate decreases. Next, if the range that needs to be displayed becomes wider, the frame rate will decrease accordingly. Lastly, let's talk about focus. In the case of focus, if you use a single focus point, the frame rate increases, but if you have multiple focal points, the frame rate decreases. Based on this content, let's take another look at the question. When the values here decrease, such as image depth, field of view range, and the number of focal points, the result is an increase in frame rate. In the case of cardiac ultrasound, it's important to set images with a high frame rate because the images need to be reproduced quickly. So when solving related problems, I want to emphasize that it's essential to review topics like PRF, frame rate, and temporal resolution. That concludes our problem solving for this question. In the next session, we'll continue with the explanations that follow. See you next time. Thank you.